Assalamu alaikum. Welcome here at Crypto Hash Review, where we educate and disseminate information about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies from a Muslim perspective. And today we're going to discuss another objection. We had completed our series of 24 videos dealing with objections against Bitcoin from scholars and learned individuals. And as a result of that, one individual in the comments actually had another question, slice objection about the feasibility of Bitcoin in the future. So it wasn't actually an issue of halal and haram. It was more of an issue of a long-term view and stability and usability of Bitcoin. Is it really a solution that is feasible? And the question was referring to the mining rewards. So for those who are unaware, miners, they get rewarded for every block. It started off in 2009 with 50 Bitcoin for every block. So every 10 minutes, miners are mining a new block, and it was 50 Bitcoin. And then after 4 years, or approximately 210,000 blocks, the reward was halved. So then it went from 50 down to 25. And then after the next 210,000 blocks, or next 4 years approximately, it halved again to 12.5. And most recently, last year, hence why the price of Bitcoin's gone up now, it halved again. And now miners are getting only 6.125, I think it's 6.125 Bitcoin per block. And this will continue happening until no more Bitcoin will be issued. And they estimate approximately in 2140, I think it is, where the last Bitcoin will be mined. And by that time, the question is, if there's no more Bitcoins to be mined, then would that be the end of the network? Does Bitcoin literally have a sell-by date? I guess that's the question involved. And it's a very good question, very interesting question. But we have to understand that the mining rewards, what miners get as a reward, does not entirely make up, or is not entirely made up of newly issued or brand new Bitcoin. It's also made up of fees. So if I send a transaction on the Bitcoin network, I make a transaction on my phone, I have to ascribe to that transaction a small fee. Small as in relative to, I guess, what you're sending. And as a miner takes these transactions, maybe it has 1,000, 1,500 different transactions. These small transactions add up to be a lot in the blockchain, in the actual block itself. But if the price of Bitcoin itself is small, then the collective transaction fees will still be small. Hence why at the beginning, there was a large issuance of 50 Bitcoin as a reward and whatever transaction fees they got. Now, what happens is over time, the rewards, newly issued Bitcoins will go down, and therefore the mining fees that they're going to get would increase in more significance, up until the point whereby the miners at some point will eventually be making more money, effectively, through the mining fees than your newly issued Bitcoin. And that's basically how the system was made. So at the beginning, hardly any money was made on the fees, but a lot of money was made from the blocks for newly issued Bitcoin. And then so over time, you get to a stage where maybe you might make equal amount. Maybe the amount of money is made through the newly issued Bitcoins is exactly the same as mining fees, and it will continue depleting until there's no more issues of Bitcoin and is purely 100% made of miner fees. Now, if we were to estimate or go by the price of Bitcoin today, that wouldn't really add up to much compared to how much the miners are getting. Let me give you some figures. So right now, if a miner won a block, he would earn approximately $340,000 in newly issued Bitcoin, and he'll also earn $55,000 in fees. So as you can see at the moment, the vast majority of the miner's reward comes from the newly issued Bitcoin, and a smaller portion is through the transaction fees. Now, when I say a smaller portion, let's look in terms of actual Bitcoin. Newly issued Bitcoin right now is 6.1 whatever Bitcoin. Whereas in terms of miner fees, I just checked online, You can see the video here, or the picture here. Right now, a newly issued Bitcoin, the miner received 1 Bitcoin in transaction fees. So on top of the 6 Bitcoin he got from the newly issued Bitcoin, he actually received an entire whole Bitcoin just for transaction fees. So that makes his total amount of Bitcoin he earned for that block not 6.1, but actually 7.2. So for imagine now in a world where the issuance of Bitcoin is less than 1 Bitcoin. So each block is not 6 Bitcoin, but maybe 1 Bitcoin, or maybe less than that, or 0. Then that other side, which is the miner fees, the transaction fees, that 1 Bitcoin he's getting extra, that needs to be significant. When I say significant, it has to be, well, it will be, if just assume the price now. So the block we just mentioned just now, they earned about $400,000 in rewards. So effectively, the price of Bitcoin, for him to receive the same amount just in fees, the price of 1 single Bitcoin needs to be at very least 400,000 Bitcoin. Estimates in the next 10 to 20 years, so it puts Bitcoin at over 10 million per Bitcoin. So assuming the miner just got only fees, transaction fees, then he would actually be earning 20 times more than what he just got now. So the idea that in the future, miners would actually earn less, or they won't be incentivized to mine, isn't realistic. Because based on if Bitcoin is adopted as a global currency between countries and individuals, then Bitcoin price needs to be in the millions. So therefore, the fees that they would earn through transactions alone, not including Bitcoins, will be likewise in the millions. Now, there was some other information I wanted to go about describing how the Bitcoin fees are generated, how it affects the price. But I want to keep this video short just to focus on just this idea that there will be no incentives for miners to mine in the future. There would definitely be incentives to mine Bitcoin in the future. But the question is, would it then be too expensive to transact? If Bitcoin is worth $10 million, that means the smallest and cheapest transaction would be approximately in a couple of dollars. And this brings us to what's called the layer 2 solution. So Bitcoin is not just as it is. People are developing right now, you could say, a layer on top of Bitcoin. So you have Bitcoin as the base layer, like TCP/IP into the internet, and then you have the layer on top of that, like HTTP. So this is now basically using the Bitcoin network, but building another network on top of Bitcoin. And what they have at the moment, the most promising project we have at the moment, is what's called the Lightning Network. Now, in future videos, we will describe to you and explain to you what is the Lightning Network, how it functions, and help you get set up to start using Lightning. But some of the advantages of the Lightning Network is small fees. So right now, I can actually send you Bitcoin through the Lightning Network for 0 fees, as in completely free, because it's between me and you. So that sounds interesting. Rather than spend £1, £2, 50p on the Bitcoin network, you can actually use the same Bitcoin, but on layer 2, and have 0 fees. So at that point in time, there will be cheaper ways for you to use Bitcoin in any everyday transaction. And already we start seeing secondary solutions where you can actually transact in Bitcoin using other networks. So for example, you have debit cards. Now you can even get a debit card, maybe like Swipe card, the Wirex card, and you actually put your Bitcoin on the debit card. And when you spend it at a shop or any like ATM, it uses the Visa network. So behind closed doors, they are already transacting and moving money around in their own network, not on the Bitcoin network, but effectively you're still using Bitcoin. So there's so many ways in which Bitcoin can be used without necessarily using it on the actual base layer. So anyway, one final point to say is that just by saying Bitcoin is important, it's the future and the rest of it, that doesn't suggest that anyone is saying that Bitcoin will be here forever, or that it's the most perfect system that will ever exist. No doubt it may be 100 years, 200 years, 1,000 years, maybe there'll be a whole new system in place of using money. That's the nature of money. Money throughout history has always adopted the latest technology in order to do things faster, more efficient, and better. It just so happens that right now, Bitcoin is the best system we have. We hope you've enjoyed this video. If you want to reach out to us to give a phone call or have a conversation, you can contact us on our website, cryptohashreview.com. And we hopefully look forward to our future videos. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.